So recently I've been watching a few Beastars analysis videos after I watched the anime. Oceanus, Jack Saint, and Alexander are the top 3 that inspired me to make this video. While they all have different approaches to analyzing the series and offer different takes,
I'm gonna make the bold claim that Beastars is a profoundly queer text.
I thought I would hone in on something more specific from the series, rather than going the whole, Beastars about racism or homophobia route.
Okay, hear me out. Animal racism.
Despite being a story about animals, it is very human in a way that it portrays young adults growing up and trying to find their place in the world. After all, Beastars is marketed as a coming-of-age story rather than some dystopian take on society. As such, I think it's very useful to analyze the characters, starting with the main character, Legoshi.
Roar, X3.
Needless to say, there will be spoilers ahead, so if you don't like spoilers, go check the series out and come back to this video again. Occasionally I will also cut to lectures and interviews from Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, because a lot of his teaching material can be applied to Legoshi's character, and he explains the subjects far better than I ever could. The series begins with a brief scene of the incident where Legoshi, a grey wolf, attacks Haru, a dwarf rabbit, before the title card. While this scene is very significant throughout the series, it does separate Legoshi into 2 different characters, Legoshi before the incident and Legoshi after the incident. Legoshi before the incident can be seen as a very lonesome wolf who keeps his distance from other students, especially herbivores. He also tries to make himself look less intimidating by hunching over in order to look smaller and weaker to other students.
To stand up straight with your shoulders back is to open yourself up to the world. You're not in the defensive crouch of a prey animal, technically speaking. And that is the circuitry that's governing posture. It's prey versus predator or something like that. And to stand up like that is to expose yourself to the world, but in a bring it on sort of manner. Not precisely combative, but let's say courageous. You see people like this on the street all the time. They could be perfectly attractive, except they're completely huddled in. They need to stand up and stretch themselves out.
However, when Temde Alpaca is murdered by a predator, other students still see Legoshi as dangerous, probably even more so due to his lonesome nature and antisocial behavior. While the show pretty quickly establishes that Legoshi is a nice guy who tries to be non-threatening, it also showcases his resentment towards himself as a wolf. He believes he is hated by others because he is a wolf, and sees himself as a victim of an unfair and prejudiced world.
But it's just not fair to you.
It wouldn't really change anyone's opinion anyways. I'll be just fine. Feared and hated. That's the story of my life.
That's the problem too. If you're chronically rejected by people, it's often because of your own insufficiencies. Whether that's cowardice or lack of social skills or whatever it is. It's like, you can't just brush it off as, oh well, no one likes me, but really I'm okay. It's like, no, wrong. If everyone rejects you, there's probably something wrong, and it's probably deep and difficult, and it's going to be horrible to fix. And so, this isn't a trivial problem.
He has created a mindset that no matter what he does, other animals will hate him for who he is, and thus there is no point trying to change that. He continues to exist as a passive, harmless wolf, denying his nature in hopes of appealing to society by staying weak. In other words,
Soy boy! Soy boy!
What an absolute soy boy.
Sure, he is kind-hearted, and those who know him closely know he's not dangerous. However, being harmless and resentful can lead you to being low status among your peers.
Lots of my clinical clients, are too agreeable. And what happens is they're resentful and they don't know how to stand up for themselves, and it's because they're very compassionate by nature. And so if you're entering into a negotiation with them, they'll let you win. Well, that's not so good, because you need to win too. Especially if you're in an organization of adults where there's a struggle.
The show makes it clear when Louis is introduced into the series. We see the Red Deer approach Legoshi with a tall posture, a calm gaze, followed by awes of female students. Louis has all the traits of a high-status male in the academy.
His gestures, his voice, and his gaze. He must have it all down. Of course he does. It's Louis. He's only a year older than me, and he's the lead actor and pretty much runs the school.
Despite the fact that Louis is a herbivore, He's shown to be very authoritative and able to keep much stronger carnivores under his control without resorting to brute strength.
You're the pup in the art department. I've got a task for you to do. Come on.
Whenever he does get physical, it tends to be more intimate and domineering than violent or aggressive. Lou is also the first one to acknowledge Legoshi's dark side.
I figured you was a quiet tree, but you have a savage in you.
And offers him to go against the rules and sneak out at night so Louis can practice his performance.
You're a wolf. Take advantage of that. Let's see your dark side.
And now we're back at the starting scene. Legoshi catches Haru's scent, and he goes after the small rabbit. Of course, my question is, why hasn't this happened before? After all, Legoshi looks surprised by his own actions, so it's obvious that it's the first time this has happened to him. I guess years of repressed emotion, the death of his classmate, and Louis egging him on all resulted in this act of aggression.
You say that you have to accept the fact that you're dangerous, or become dangerous, because I'd also say that if you haven't done that kind of shadow work, if you haven't made friends with your anger, if you haven't integrated it, you're actually more dangerous.
Yes, definitely.
Because then things will happen that it will come out in a way that you don't expect.
Right, it comes out disintegrated. So it comes out as an autonomous spirit, right, under no one's control. And that's like a burst of rage, let's say. It's like mayhem. And everybody goes, well, what happened? It's like, well, 7 terrible things came together at the same time and produced this outburst of disintegrated rage. And like, look the hell out when that happens.
The shadow, in Jungian psychology, is a character archetype that is comprised of the least desirable and negative traits of a person's personality. Normally people try to reject or remain ignorant of the shadow, thus avoiding both the positive and negative aspects that side offers.
Look at me. Face yourself. Don't look away. I'm growing bigger. Can you see? I won't look. Go away.
The shadow manifests into a separate entity that tries to tempt Legoshi into going through with his desires.
You longed for this taste for 17 years.
Luckily he snaps out of it, but the proverbial genie is out of the bottle. From this moment, the old Legoshi is gone. This is emphasized by the mirror scene, where he sees the shadow in his reflection. He tries to attack the shadow, but he knows it won't be that easy.
Part of spiritual development is to recognize the satanic tendencies that characterize you and to fully wrestle with them and to integrate them. That's the thing. It's not so much to cast them away, it's to transmute them. You know, and you can see the difference between people who've done that and people who haven't, at least to some degree.
While acknowledging your shadow is an important part of developing yourself, it does take time to fully understand and integrate it into your life. In the case of Legoshi, we see him suffering a great amount of guilt for what he has done. At the start of episode 2, we see Legoshi dreaming of being inside the cage. Legoshi sees himself as a monster and his first desire is to isolate himself from the world. Of course, the world is literally dragging him out of bed to socialize with others. So what can he do? Well, the only thing he can, live with the shadow. But it's easier said than done because he can't go back into being himself. The cafeteria scene confirms that. We see 2 students fighting in the cafeteria. Legoshi is instantly reminded of the incident from last night and instinctively demands the fight to stop. Even his childhood friend Jack sees this as strange.
What the heck is up with you, Legoshi?
Meaning that if Legoshi was the way he was before, he would just remain passive and complicit to the things around him.
He's touched by malevolence, right? The only reason he can stand up against evil is because there's some evil in him that he's incorporated, essentially.
Of course now, by demanding the 2 students to stop, he is enacting his authority onto them, which doesn't go very well because in the dominance hierarchy, Legoshi kept himself very low status. Physically, Legoshi is stronger than the other student, and the show emphasizes this by highlighting the different physical attributes that Legoshi has compared to the other student. But Legoshi still wants to lose on purpose, as he's still not ready to take on responsibility for his strength. He'd rather get beaten and be a victim again.
Part of how you regulate your interactions with other people is to negotiate. And you cannot negotiate unless you can say no. You can't do it. And it causes conflict to say no, and if you don't like conflict, which is basically the definition of being agreeable, then you can't tolerate the conflict, and so then you can't negotiate on your own behalf, and so then you keep losing, and you're bullied, and you know, it's not good. Then you get resentful, and it's really not good.
Luckily, our alpha deer Louis comes in to save the day. He also gives Legoshi a pep talk, making the wolf consider his role in the school.
If he's the justice around here, what's that make me?
Back in the drama club, Legoshi is tasked to get some roses from the gardening club, and there he stumbles upon a very familiar scent. The relationship between Haru and Legoshi is worth exploring on its own separate video, so I will keep this fairly brief. After seeing Haru again, Legoshi instantly tries to run away, but ends up trapped with her and has to face her. Of course, Legoshi is not afraid of Haru herself, rather than the idea of his own malevolence. After all, the last time they were alone together, he almost devoured her, so it makes sense that Legoshi is fairly anxious about being around her. However, as the two spend time together, Legoshi develops new feelings towards her, able to see her more than just prey, and in return, sees himself less of a predator. For now, we jump ahead to another Louis and Legoshi scene. What I do find interesting is how much Louis is actually paying attention to Legoshi's body language. It's a constant theme throughout these 3 episodes that Louis keeps trying to get Legoshi to show the real side of him.
Why don't you take responsibility for who you are? If you can't hide it completely, I'd rather you show me your true self.
Because Louis sees this pretend act of weakness as a sign of disrespect towards him.
No matter how hard I work, to predators I'm telling you to show me your fangs.
Carnivores exposing their fangs to herbivores is forbidden.
I'm not just another herbivore! Quit pretending. Bite me!
I think the pivotal moment is when Legoshi's fangs sink into Louis' hands. Notice the very gentle way he does it. He doesn't even break the skin. It's a gesture that Legoshi is incorporating his shadow further. He has the capacity to bite, but has enough control of himself not to cross the line he did during the previous night.
Sophisticated people understand that you don't make men harmless by making them weak. You make them useful and responsible by helping them bring their capacity for mayhem and aggression under long-term, conscious, careful control.
Later on in Biology Hour, a place designed for each species to enjoy their natural habitat, Legoshi contemplates his identity.
Is it true? What I told Louis? That I'm not just a monster lurking in the darkness. I'm a mammal, carnivore, and part of the Kennedy family. And I'm also a male wolf.
Finally, we see Legoshi look at himself in the mirror, but there is a change. We don't see the shadow anymore. This signifies a better understanding of himself and finds happiness in accepting who he is.
What's this emotion I'm feeling? I feel like I saw a glimpse of myself. I'm at a brighter place, feeling the drive to move forward. Oh, I get it. I'm feeling happy.
Legoshi's character arc in these 3 episodes was an excellent character study of the shadow and showcases the issues we all have to face as we grow and develop our identity. Legoshi as a character, and Beastars in general, show the dangers of repressing your nature rather than accepting it and incorporating it into your being. It's only when we accept responsibility for our own lives and who we are can we start making the world a better place. This is especially true for men. As our own society is steadily fighting against male identity and masculinity, it can lead to a lot of resentment and self-hatred.
We're so stupid. We're alienating young men. We're telling them that they're patriarchal oppressors and denizens of rape culture and you know, tyrants in waiting, and we fail to discriminate between their competence and their tyranny, and it's awful. And I think, God, it's so sad that so many of these men, you know, they've not had an encouraging bloody word, a real encouraging word in their entire life. It just takes a little bit of encouragement and care so that they're willing to set themselves straight to some degree and start trying. It's just a catastrophe that's so rare in their lives. And they're desperate for a discussion about responsibility and fair play and noble being and working properly in the world, and the idea and to hear the idea that their lives actually matter, that if they straighten themselves up and fly right, that they'll have a beneficial effect on themselves and their family and the community, and that the world is starving for that. And for them as individuals, not for them as a group, but for each of them as individuals. So,
yeah, it breaks me up. Every time the topic comes up, it breaks me up.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. There's a lot more elements to discuss about the show and Legoshi's character, as well as characters like Louis, Haru, and Juno, and many other ones. I recommend you watching Beastars as well. And watch it with an open mind, because I think focusing on the characters in the show is actually a lot more interesting than focusing on the society of Beastars. But that's all for now. Thank you, and I'll see you later.